Oh, good morning and welcome to Cord Art. Haven't done a tap for a little while. Thought I'd do one on the handle of my, what they call an ugly stick. Yeah, I've posted this on a few sites, but had a few people come back and say, how do you do this sort of cover, this weave? I did pick it up from a video some time ago, but I can't find the video and I can't remember what it's called. But I intend to try and show you how I actually achieved this. Bit long-winded, so I'll be cutting in and out, okay? What I've actually done so far is, because I've got an order for another ugly stick, I've carved another face. This time, rather than being on a pickaxe handle, this one was an old table leg I just happened to have in my shed. So what we've got to look at first is the dimensions that we want to cover. Now when I did this one, you can see that the shape and the distances are different, i.e. diameters and what have you. This one's about 1 inch wide and 1.5 inches long, and then we're going to put some cords around that, which you've got to find out how many cords will go around that sort of diameter. This one's 1.25 inches, but obviously as we go along it gets thicker, but to the point only to about 1.5 inches. So we're going to have a variation from 1.25 inches to about 1.5 inches. Now I made the previous handle too long, i.e. I'll just show you that one. Didn't really need to have it so big. It does look good, but it's too long sort of thing. This is about 8 inches long. I'm going to have the next one only 5 inches long. Yeah. So what do we need to find out how to go about this? Well, I start off with a good old elastic band. Yeah, we'll double over an elastic band at the end. Yeah. Now it's going to be quite a few cords coming down this way that we have to restrain for 5 inches, so that we can actually do the obvious and weave the other way. Yeah. So what I tend to do is, having in mind that I want it 5 inches long, I've cut some cords and they're 16 inches long. So that gives us, when we double it over around that elastic band, that gives us our 5 inches and about 2.5 inches longer at the end. Yeah. So what we then do is try, now these are all, I know how many there goes around this. It's 33. Now I will say at this point, you need an odd number. If you're just going to pick up the elastic band and put one of these underneath and double it down, there's our first one. This is to find out how many we need, but on the size of wood that you might be doing. You need to count this as 2. Yeah. Although it was one of 16 inches, it's now 2 of 8 inches. Yeah. But at the end one, we're going to have to put 1 in, because to get the weave we're after, you've got to have an odd number of these coming down this way. Yeah. Right. So what I'm going to do now is just show you that the one to your left will be like number 1, and number 2 will just go down beside it like so. We'll bring another 16-inch piece in, pull up the elastic band, bring it halfway along. Now this is the way that we actually work out how many cords. So we've got number 1, 2, Number 1, which is the left hand side of this one, will come along to down there like so. Hope that's clear. Yeah. And then this one's will be number 4. So by putting, so you can see we got chord, gap, yeah. I've got a feeling that I've got too many chords cut here. If it's too many chords, it's going to bulk at the bottom. But I'm going to come back to you when I've actually located all of these chords underneath that rubber band in a similar manner to what I've done there. Be back in a short while. So coming to the end of just putting all these chords through. Now I'm using gutted cord. As I say, they're 16-inch pieces of cord going through this rubber band and then being doubled over. That's the last double. Now again, I've taken the underneath one over to the left and the top one to the right. Now I said that I needed 13 pieces, so this one's going to be singular, sorry, 13, odd number of chords. So that one's going to be the odd one out, so to speak. What I'd like to do now is, rather than just depend on that elastic band, is to put a piece of cord around underneath all these chords and tie a knot, so that if the rubber band gives, which it has done in the past to me, I'll show you what I mean. Just sliding that underneath all the outer ones like so. Yeah. Now I brought it round to here. I'm just going to do a half hitch and tighten down. Yeah. I don't want that to give, but I don't want it to be in the way either. So what I'm going to do there is cut off that end. Just melt that so it doesn't go anywhere. Cut off this end. And melt that one. Like so. Right, so now we've got all of those chords. I've got a feeling that my singular one, which is that one here, that's okay. I wanted to know where the singular one was, and that's that one there. Yeah. I want to tie a knot in the top of that one, just a half hitch. Tie a half hitch knot in the bottom of that one. In fact, what I'm going to do is, before I make sure that everything is in position, is tie a knot on the end of all of these, and you'll see why when I do the next move in a second. Back to you shortly. So there we are. I've got 16 pieces of 16-inch chords over the top of this rubber band, and then one extra one. I've tied knots to the bottom. Now the reason I've done that is I've made sure that I've got all of these in position. The back ones over to slightly to the left, these top ones slightly over to the right. So having in mind we've got this long one there, we've got to take that in consideration. What I want to do now is tighten these down a little bit so they're nice, just like so. Another rubber band. Right, so we're going to go once and twice. So this one's still at the top. We're going to keep hold of those so that they don't move. I don't know what I've just knocked down, but I've knocked something down. And then we're going to bring this rubber band down like so. Now I can see that one of mine is a bit short. That's because the other end of it is too long. Let's just play around with that a little bit. Pull that one up and this one down. That's okay. Now we're only looking to do 5 inches of, and that one, yeah, looking to do 5 inches. Let's get my tape measure. This is going to be up near the top. It's not critical that it stays near the top at the moment, yeah. But 5 inches is, bring that rubber band down to there. That's about 5 inches, yeah. The reason I put the knots in is so that I don't pull them all back out again. So what I'll now do is just make sure that these are all in position again. I think they all are. I'm going to trust that they are. So let's just recap what we've got there before we go to the next stage of actually weaving. We've got a 1 1/4 inch shaft. I've worked out by doing this method that we needed 16 doubles, 16 pieces of cord doubled over the rubber band, supported by another cord underneath, and then one other. So the 16, so that makes this 32 cords going down there, and then the 33rd one is the single. We've actually retained it with an elastic band down here. I've put some knots in the bottom. You don't have to. On the previous one I didn't, but you learn by your mistakes. Now when we're doing the weaving, it's possible that one of these might ride up past the rubber band, which is awkward because you've then got to put it back down through. So let's push on to the next stage now. It's all pretty straightforward stuff. I tend to start where the single one is because then I know that I'm coming round to the next one, yeah. Now we'll just put that on my lap for a minute. Now again, this is cordless. Sorry, yeah, I've taken the inner cords out of this, and I've got 15 feet of blue 550. All the ends on everything have all been melted, yeah, everywhere, so that I don't get any fraying. The same as on the 15. So what I'm going to do with I'm going to start off where the single one is. I'm going to go underneath Let me think about this now. I'm going to go underneath and under the single, like so. In fact, what I think I might do, with hindsight from last time, is tie a knot in the end of this one, just in case I pull it too hard. So I tie a little half hitch in there, like so, and then we can bring it down fairly close to where we've started. So yeah, I've gone underneath the first one. Now after that, it's really quite monotonous, because what I'm going to be doing is going over, under, over, under, over, under. Yeah, I'll do a couple of, so let's start that again. Over, over, under, and I could just keep going all the time. Over, under, over, under. Now I'm going to do a line, and I'll come back to you. Well, as you can see, you're going to get a couple of rows in, and it starts to take a bit of shape. But it won't be until I've done 3 or 4 rows that I can really get leverage on it. Now, what I will say here is tension is key. I'm keeping this blue one really tight, yeah. And each time I do a complete circumference of the stick, I'm getting hold of pairs like this, and pulling them down so that we get the pattern. See if I can do those two there. You've really got to fettle, what I call fettling, achieve the proper shape and form at this early stage. Now I'm going to probably go down about halfway and then I'll come back to you, maybe a 3/4 of the way of my 5 inches, but be back to you soon. Well, welcome back. I got carried away really. I've done more than the 3/4. In fact, I've done the 5 inches just about. I've got one more row to go round, but so I'll show you that. You can see that I finished the end. Obviously there's going to be a similar end to this, or covering if you like, on just about where the rubber band is. It's also keep knocking things off. He's also got his hat on. This, you call it an ugly stick or whatever. So this is a Turk's head. That one's a Turk's egg head covering on the bottom. But you can choose whatever knot you want. I might show you the covering of this one. So we'll just see if we can actually finish off this last one. So as I say, I'm keeping the tension really quite tight. You can hear it squeak, yeah? And then we're pulling these down so that they all fall into position. It's not an easy task. You need quite a lot of wrist power. If you haven't got that, then this might not be the one you want to play with. Right, so I think I can just about get one more row in. I've got miles too much blue. You know I said I needed 15 feet. I could have probably got away with 10 feet. But there you go. So the last one was over. So we're going, and I must admit I did put a little bit of super glue on there just to hold the place overnight, because this is another day. But I think we can still win. So we're going under, over, under, over, and I'll show you a little trick to stop the blue from sort of going crisscrossy underneath the yellows in a second. We just get a significant way on with this. See, they're getting very short now. Perhaps I should have made the yellows longer, just an inch or two longer. Rather than 16, they should have probably been 18 inches. But we're winning. Right, I'm going to call that. I know it's not a full turn round, but I know that I've got 5 inches once I've done this. So we'll pull that through to a point. And what I've been doing is, if you get the bit that's just gonna disappear down, see we've got a crossover here on this bit. We don't want all that twist and everything. So if we smooth out a loop like so, keep the tension on it with your thumb, pull that through and keep that tension going. Hang on, I've got a twist there, so I'm going to bring it right the way back and start again with that one. It's me trying to force it. So yeah, I've got this loop now, all nice and flat shaped. The crossovers underneath these yellows here, but if I feed it through slowly, keeping that pressure on my thumb there, the blue is flat underneath. Yeah. So nice and tight. Pull these down. like so. Now I was going to show the covering knot as I was doing it, but I got myself into a pickle, and no matter what I did, I was doing it wrong until I actually turned the camera off and started again. So if you want to use that particular covering knot, the Turk's head, then you'll have to research it online. I mean, I've actually done Turk's heads on other projects that I've done and managed it no problem whatsoever. It's just today I can't do it. Well, I can do it, but not on the camera. So that's our full project now. I'm quite pleased with it. I hope the customer is pleased with it. She's going to keep that near her front door. So thanks for watching. If it's been of it helped, that's great. Any questions, give me a shout. Most people know where I am. All the best from Cold Art.